I'm seeing quite a few reviewers out there kind of on board with Batman 143. And me personally, I couldn't disagree more on this particular comic book. From Chip Zdarsky, Andrea Sorrentino with Giuseppe Camuncoli also on art here. And I absolutely despise this comic book. I despise it even more than issue 1, which I did not like whatsoever. I did a full review over on the Patreon, but this is the first time I'm actually going to review it here on the YouTube, and I'm going to explain to you why I have so many issues with this comic book. Because when you look at the history of the Joker and he starts out, he's just like the agent of chaos. He's the polar opposite of Batman, who's kind of brooding and dark and mysterious. He's very vibrant in his look, and he's very egotistical, and he's kind of doesn't like order and all that kind of stuff. He's basically just supposed to be the opposite of Batman. Well, eventually, that's not enough. You can't really explore Joker anymore. We've already done enough Joker stories. Now Joker has to be reborn every so many years with a new, more demonic and crazier and demonstrably more insane type of personality because he's a psychopath. And eventually that kind of gets boring and the luster wears off. And then eventually there's 3 physical manifestations of the Joker. He's actually 3 different people operating, maybe not in unison or perhaps in unison, to mess with Batman. Maybe that's what was going on. And then eventually we get to it was always preordained. It was destined that Joker would eventually confiscate the body of Batman and become the Batman who laughs, who would be greater, he above all, the greatest villain of all times, the most powerful villain of all times, and that only gets you so far. And then, once you've stripped the character down and you've tried to elevate him and you've pushed him left and right and you've done all these things with the character, you get to this point where you can only fuel the next set of stories with absolute narcissism, to where Chip Zdarsky doesn't want to say anything interesting about Joker. He doesn't want to say anything new about Joker. He just wants to take what story he wrote before this and basically put it into the Joker, because without the Joker, Chip Zdarsky's Batman run will be meaningless. And without putting his stamp on the Joker, which really isn't putting a stamp on the Joker, but putting his stories into 4 or 5 different Joker kind of origin type of things, now he can be included with being in the Joker history forever, but it just falls completely flat in this really tedious, fucking boring, monologue-heavy monstrosity. Because as you're reading the book, you'll be reading it in the year 1 timeline, following Batman 0 year from Scott Snyder. You're like, I don't understand what's the point of the comic book. What's the motivations? I don't even get what they're trying to go for. Where is it moving? When you go to the far-reaching future timeline, you're like, what are they even trying to get at here? Are they trying to tell a story, or are we just seeing scenes from the future of Batman and Joker? And then I finally realized that it was just narcissism. It's just to put Chip Zdarsky into the history of Batman, and he actually lets it out of the bag pretty early on within this comic book. Let's talk about the deets on this bad boy. Early on in the story, we do see Daniel Captio, and he had trained Bruce Wayne early on in his career, and Bruce had punched him. Oh my goodness, the absolute revulsion of punching Daniel Captio on the part of Bruce Wayne. Now he must find somebody with even more potential, with perhaps perfection around them. And basically, almost 50% of this comic book is Daniel Captio just creaming himself, talking about the Joker and about how amazing he is. He's a wild beast. He needs to run off on his own before it comes back to me, but he will. It's too tempting for the man who is on the edge of perfection. He is so close, I can cure the only thing holding him back, his fear of the man I know deeply, Bruce Wayne, the Batman, the man I trained. Oh, Bruce, you shouldn't have left me like that. I made you better and you disrespected me. Check out Batman the Knight, Ben Abernathy. And that right there is the purpose of the entire comic book. So he can place Batman the Knight and connect it not only to Scott Snyder's Batman 0 year, the origin of Joker, established at New 52, but he's also going to connect it into Grant Morrison's Batman run with the Batman as R&R. You didn't know this. Daniel Captio and his training with Joker is going to be a part of that as well. And he's also going to connect it into the 3 Jokers and basically permeate his stupid story, Batman the Knight, which isn't very good, and make it very important to all these other people's stories, because he's not good enough to tell his own compelling, awesome Joker narrative. He can only use other people's stuff and try to hijack it with this stupid goddamn story. And here's the bad thing. Here's the thing, Chip. I hate to break it to you. While you do need the Joker doesn't need you. And that's why this story will absolutely be immediately forgotten, because it sucks so bad and it's so obvious what you're actually trying to do here. There are a few other things going on here with like Jim Gordon and stuff, but it seems to have absolutely nothing to do with really anything. So we'll just concentrate on what the Joker's going on here is, the Joker Year One story. And we get more Lusting After the Joker by Daniel Caprio. I teach him what I taught Bruce, how pain is in the mind and he can turn it off with enough training. He does it in record time, but I suspect he doesn't care about such things. I think he likes the pain, so he pushes him deeper. I teach him to eradicate fear, to control any human emotions he may have. When I'm not training him, I'm dissecting him. A stunning mind on the edge of greatness. Everything he says to me is a lie, but I look past the lies at the truth. I once said to Bruce that nothing matters and everything matters, that existence is a simultaneous cosmic trick, a cosmic joke. This man before me is a physical manifestation of that. Oh my goodness. It's almost as if the Joker is a god among villains. Is that what we're trying to say here? Yes, that is absolutely what Chip Zdarsky is trying to say here. And he doesn't just try to say it here. He certainly even does it with some of the iconography and imagery. The Joker is not just an ordinary villain. He's actually the villain messiah. We also learn that Daniel taught the Joker how to create alternate personalities, which he also taught Batman. I wonder how Batman created Zur-En-Arrh. So now we have Chip Zdarsky creating this Daniel Caprio character and shoving him into the Grant Morrison Zur-En-Arrh bullshit that no one really wants to see, but he won't stop talking about. But then he has to take it a one step further because the Three Jokers is almost the same thing as the Batman of Zur-En-Arrh. He exceeds Bruce immediately, seeing the potential of the backups. First is the clown, laughter and devilishness bursting forth, an imp with a demon inside. The second simply is that demon. I don't believe in heaven or hell, but if I did, I'd think this man has existed for millennia, tormenting humanity in service of something greater. The third is calm like a black ocean at night, and like that ocean, all that waits for you is cold death. For the first time in my life, I am finally awestruck. Oh my goodness, I am also awestruck here because the Three Jokers concept, which was introduced during Darkseid War, I believe in Justice League, was at 50, reintroduced in DC Rebirth, and certainly fully explored in Batman the Three Jokers by Jeff Johns and Jason Fabok. None of that was real. It was actually, he's got three personalities in his mind. And of course, that also ties back into what Grant Morrison had kind of established about the Joker during his Batman run and all that kind of stuff. And here's the dumbest thing about all of this stuff. There's money to be made with Batman the Three Jokers. A Batman Three Jokers sequel written by Jeff Johns and illustrated by Jason Fabok would absolutely make a whole lot of money. But it can't happen now because it was never real. A real genius move, but Chip Zdarsky needed not to put a stamp on Joker, but to come in the back door and shove his characters into the Three Jokers and completely redefine something that likely could have made DC Comics a few $1 million in the future at a minimum. But hey, Chip Zdarsky not being able to put his actual stamp on the character with good storytelling needed another way to do it, and this is the path that he chose, complete narcissism. And in the final act of Daniel Caprio training the Joker, because this is basically just the world's longest, most boring training montage, he's fast, too fast. Was he always this fast? I'm the smartest man alive, and for the briefest of moments, I think to myself, have I been tricked? Was this madman greater than I anticipated, feigning fear in order to take knowledge from me? Did he see me coming and put on a show? All I can do now in my final moments is take solace in the chaotic perfection and the knowledge that ultimately my goal has been achieved. Somebody that can defeat the Batman, a rival to Bruce Wayne, because Bruce Wayne pimp-slapped him all those years ago in a book no one cares about and doesn't even remember, was even told by Chip Zdarsky. But this is all very important stuff. And, whatever, Joker killed this character that no one cares about at the end, but is now vital to the creation not only of Batman and Joker, but the Batman and Joker rivalry. And in fact, at one point, Joker says, since you trained us both, we could be considered brothers, and we could consider you a father. Oh, yeah, that's really going to stick. What a fucking joke this stupid story is. Now, in the last issue, the story that had more potential, because it was only like 3 or 4 pages, was the story in the future. Turns out that was a lie. There was probably no potential in that story whatsoever. Now that we actually have more information on it, I don't even know what to say. Last time we got Joker crucified like Christ. Now we have him walking on water, robes like Christ with his arms out, risen from the fucking dead. Because he's not the Joker. He's not just a villain to Batman. He is the goddamn villain messiah. According to the fucking iconography in the story, And this thing is so aimless. And yes, Andrea Sorrentino is a fantastic artist. It's haunting visually, but I do not appreciate the symbolism at all. And yes, I am quite biased on this one because I am Christian, and this is absolutely bullshit. But guess what? The story isn't good either. Even if it didn't have this fucking image in it, it would absolutely still suck. And for some reason in the future, Joker just wants to see Batman investigate a mystery that he has created for him that leads him to GCPD, and he ends up running into Selena Kyle, the Catwoman, who looks exactly like Black Cat from Marvel Comics. Definitely feels like gimmick infringement on this one, and it turns out she has locked up the Batman family in GCPD so they won't be Joker zombies out there or whatever. And I was like, oh my God. So he's gonna outdo fucking Scott Snyder and the Batman Who Laughs with the fucking Bat Family Who Laughs. This is the point where rolling my eyes wasn't enough. This was the point where going, oh my God, I can't believe this could get worse was enough. This is the point where I wanted to pick up my computer. I wanted to throw it out a window. This is the point where I wanted to quit YouTube and talking about comic books altogether, because if this is the best we got, these are the best ideas that we can do with Batman, the premier fucking character in the entire industry, let's get rid of him. Let's just fucking kill him off and start over with new heroes, because they literally have nowhere to go. The only thing that Chip Zdarsky is trying to do in this comic book is tie in all of his stupid bullshit that no one's ever going to remember into stuff other people do remember. And it's an absolute failure on the part of Chip Zdarsky, a lack of creativity, a lack of imagination. If I was the Joker and I was talking to him, Chip Zdarsky would have been so much better off if he said, you know what, let's play on the Alan Moore punchline from Joker when he said, I prefer multiple choice. Just tell a wholly original take on the origin of Joker that doesn't tie into any of that shit. Do your own spin on it and let people decide. Do I want to take this one? Do I want to take Batman 0 Year? Do I want to take the Killing Joke? What Joker origin do I want to accept as the origin for my interpretation of the Joker? He didn't have the creativity. He didn't have the insight. He didn't have enough confidence in his own ability as a writer to do anything new or different or original with it. And it's so boring. It's so lame. It's so tedious. And it just absolutely sucks ass, basically, from beginning to end. If you're saying, you think part 2 is better than part 1, hey, man, enjoy your fucking little nostalgia trip and don't actually pay attention to what's going on. Don't think about the comic book and what the purpose of the actual story is. Don't think about what he's actually trying to do with his lack of creativity in this comic book. Don't think about it. Just enjoy content until next content comes along. Because at this point, I just think a lot of people out there are mindless sheeps. This thing absolutely sucks across the board. And even the good art was ruined by some of the symbolism and the complete nonsense that is that future storyline. If you would like more related to comic books, whether it be podcasts or original reviews, because I did review Joker Year 1, Part 1, exclusive to the Patreon. There's a link to the Patreon in the video description. We've got comic book reviews. We got pop culture discussions and Q&As with Doc, a lot of people's favorite guest, and who probably would dislike this comic book even more than me.